Welcome to The Complete Works, an official podcast of FilmBook. The Complete Works is a podcast that delves film by film into the filmography of a Hollywood actor, director, writer, or composer.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Complete Works. I am your host, Doug Hess. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you're coming back as a regular viewer, thank you again for tuning in to Complete Works. So what we do here on The Complete Works is we're use this podcast to discuss a specific movie from a film actor, actress, director, or composer's film career. Currently, we are working our way through a new individual, and that is going to be Christopher Nolan. We just finished up with the Nicolas Cage film history, if you will, as an actor. Now we're moving on to Christopher Nolan, who is a director. And in this episode of The Complete Works, we're going to be looking at following Christopher Nolan's first film that he directed. If you'd like to find out more about the Complete Works podcast, you can go to thefilm-book.com by using the search term The Complete Works. You can also email us at that's podcast@film-book.com. Again, that's podcast@film-book.com with The Complete Works in the subject line, or you can put Christopher Nolan or the following, because that's the film we're going to be dealing with today. If you like what you hear on this podcast, please hit the subscription button so every time a new podcast is uploaded, it goes right to the device that you're listening to. As we mentioned just a moment ago, we just finished with Nicolas Cage, and we're moving on to a new individual, Christopher Nolan. And we're going to be looking at the film The Following, which is his first film. But before we jump in, like we do in every episode, talking about some trivia, also looking at the cast that's in the particular film, and then the storyline, reviews, my thoughts, etc. Since we're going to a new individual, I thought it would be interesting just to start out this podcast talking a little bit about Christopher Nolan. So a little bit about him. He is best known for his non-liner storytelling. He's an acclaimed writer, director, and we're talking about Christopher Nolan, who was born on July 30th, 1970 in London, England. And over the course of 15 years of filmmaking, Nolan has gone from low-budget independent films to working on some of the biggest blockbusters in the industry. And like I said, we're going to be talking about his first film, which was a very low-budget independent film, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. A little bit more about Christopher Nolan. At age 7, Nolan began making short movies with his father's Super 8 camera. And then while studying English literature at the University College London, he shot 16-millimeter films at UCL, and again, it's the University College London's Film Society, where he learned the guerrilla techniques he would later use to make his first feature film, The Following, back in 1998, on a budget of around $6,000. The No Thrill was recognized as a number of international film festivals prior to its theatrical release, and it gained Nolan enough credibility that he was able to gather substantial financing for additional film or his next film, which many of you will recognize his second film, which was Memento in 2000. Which he not only directed from his own screenplay based on a short story by his brother, Jonathan, and this film starred Guy Pearce. And it went on to receive several honors, including an Academy Award and Golden Globe Award nomination for the Best Original Screenplay. So just imagine, second film, and he's getting nominated. The turning point in Nolan's career occurred when he was awarded the chance to receive the Batman franchise in 2005. In Batman Begins, which was in 2005, like I mentioned, Nolan brought a level of gravity back to the ironic hero. His gritty, modern interpretation was greeted with praise from not only fans, but also from critics alike. Before moving on to a Batman sequel, however, Nolan directed and co-wrote and produced the mystery thriller The Prodigy in 2006, which starred Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman as magicians who obsessed rivalries lead to tragedy and also a murder in that film. And those are films that we'll be talking about in future episodes. Then we go to 2008. Nolan is then directed and co-wrote and produced The Dark Knight, which went on to gross more than $1 billion worldwide. He received a nomination from the Directors Guild of America Award, the Writers Guild of America, and the Producers Guild of America Award. And the film also received 8 Academy Award nominations. Fast forward to 2010, then we find that Nolan captivated audience again with his science sci-fi thriller Inception, 2010, which he not only directed, but he also produced from his own original screenplay. This thought-provoking drama was a worldwide blockbuster, earning over $800 million and becoming one of the most discussed and debated films of the year. He received many honors. It received 4 Academy Awards and 8 nominations, including Best Picture and Screenplay. He was also, again, recognized by his peers, once again, for all of his hard work on that particular film. Then we go into 2012, The Dark Knight Rises, which then concludes Nolan's Batman trilogy. Due to his success rebooting the Batman character, Warner Brothers enlisted Nolan to produce their revamped Superman movie, Man of Steel, in 2013, which opened in the summer of 2013. Then in 2014, Nolan directed, wrote, and produced the sci-fi epic Interstellar, 2014, starring Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway. Paramount Pictures and Warner Brothers then released the film on November the 5th, 2014, to positive reviews and a strong box office, which he grossed over $670 million worldwide. So a couple things about Nolan. He resides currently in Los Angeles, California, with his wife, who is a producer, Emma Thompson, and their children, and they have their own production company. A couple trivia things that I thought was kind of neat when I was doing a little bit of research on Christopher Nolan. His top 10 favorite movies are, in no particular order, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was released back in 1968, The Black Hole, back in 1979, a Disney movie, Blade Runner, 1982, Chinatown in 74, The Hitchhiker in 86, Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, Her Majesty's Secret Service, 1969. That is a James Bond, if you're not familiar with that. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, which was released in 1977. A Man Who Would Be King, 1975, as well as Anytime by Stanley Kupnik. A couple other quick neat trivia, I thought. Following Insomnia in 2002, his next project was going to be a Howard Hughes biopic starring Jim Carrey. However, he had started the screenplay calling it one of the best things he had ever written. But he then found out that Martin Scorsese was also making his own Howard Hughes biopic, which was The Aviator in 2004. And then basically what happened was Nolan reluctantly tabled his script and took up directing Batman Begins that was released in 2005. Nolan is a huge fan of the rock band Radiohead. He was offered to direct Troy, that was released in 2004, and he is the first non-American director to direct a Batman film. So just a couple quick trivia about Christopher Nolan, who is individual that we are talking about and starting a new series on this episode of The Complete Works. So, the first movie that Christopher Nolan directed is The Following. And so, as we do on every episode, is we're just going to jump into a little bit of some trivia regarding The Following. So, what was really interesting is the primary or principal photography of this film took over really a year to do. It was because all the cast and crew had other full-time jobs, and they were able really only to work on it on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. And that's what took really basically a year to complete the project. Christopher Nolan came up with the idea of the film because he had his home broken into and wondered what people thought as they went around looking at all of his belongings. And we'll come back and talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes. Christopher Nolan never studied filmmaking at any university. He studied, like I said, English literature at the University College in London and used Film Society there to shoot the opening dialogue scene between Bill and the policeman in the movie The Following. The whole film is shot almost entirely handheld single camera. Another trivia point is the clock that Cobb steals is the same clock as in Christopher Nolan's Mementos, which is his next film after The Following. This is his directorial debut with a feature-length film. You'll see Bill's posters include Reserve Dogs, 1992, Casablanca, 1942, Sunset Boulevard, 1950, The Shining, from 1980, and a poster of Marilyn Monroe. Let's see here. A couple other things. The alias used by Bill in the bar is Danny Lloyd. Danny Lloyd is the name of the lead child actor in Stanley Kubrick's, The Shining. Christopher Nolan is a fan of Kubrick and considers him one of his primary influencers when it comes to films. The second apartment Bill and Cobb break into has a Batman sticker on the door. Christopher Nolan would go on to later direct the Dark Knight trilogy, which consisted of Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. Let's see here. The production budget of the film, like I said earlier at the beginning, is only about $6,000, which makes it one of the least expensive films in history. The surname Cobb is also used by the character Dom Cobb, another thief, played by Leonardo DiCaprio in Christopher Nolan's 2010 film Inception. The only Christopher Nolan movie where his wife Emma Thomas plays a role. The famous Here's Johnny picture from The Shining is shown in Bill's apartment. Again, you'll see that as because Christopher Nolan is a huge fan of Stanley Kubrick. A couple other things. This film and his follow-up film Memento are, as of 2018, the only films Christopher Nolan has directed that were not produced by the Warren Brothers. There's a painting by Mark Rothko hanging in the wall of the young man's room, visible when he visits it with Cobb's. This, along with Insomnia in 2002 and Dunkirk 2017, are the only films Christopher Nolan has made which did not have any non-American actors playing American characters. A couple other quick things here. Both Jeremy Theobald and Lucy Russell appear in Batman Begins. I thought something was kind of interesting here, talking about the director's trademark when it's coming here. Christopher Nolan, so there's a credit card break-in, and the Cobbs Cobb attempts to break into a flat using a credit card. This is the same method that is used in a Memento and Insomnia. So, like I said, it's kind of like a trademark that the director uses is a credit card in terms of that. Want to be very careful here on a couple other things, because if you haven't seen the movie, there might be some spoiler alerts here. Just a heads up. The narrative jumps 31 times between different time periods of the story, making following the movie perplexing. And Cobb is a thief in the movie, or a burglar, however you want to say it. As Bill understands it, Cobb is also the last name of Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Inception, who is a thief and steals ideas by getting into people's heads or in their dreams. Following is also about implanting false evidence onto Bill, deceiving and the understanding of police by getting into Bill's life. So, just a couple quick, like I said, some trivia when it comes to the movie Following and Christopher Nolan there. The cast, like I said, it was directed and written by Christopher Nolan. Jeremy Theobald plays the young man. Alex Hall is Cobb. Lucy Russell plays the blonde. John Nolan plays the policeman. Jennifer Engel is a waitress. Nicholas Carlott is barman. And Guy Greenway is heavy number one. Just kind of give you an idea of some of the cast that's in the film. So box office. So I've mentioned this several different times. The budget, it was roughly about $6,000 in the U.S., or I should really say cumulative worldwide gross was around $48,482. So a nice little return on investment. It was production company was Next Wave Films. Runtime is just a little over an hour at 69 minutes. It was shot in the United Kingdom. It was released, like I said, in November the 5th, 1999, and it was shot in black and white. So just kind of give you a little update on there. So what is the storyline? Well, we told you some of the trivia here was that Nolan really kind of got the idea for this film when he had his home broken into, and like I said, he kind of had the idea of thinking, what do people think when they start going through other people's private items and materials? So the storyline, it's an older man listens to Bill's story about a writer who likes to follow strangers around London, observing them. One day, a glib and self-confident man whom Bill has been following confronts him. He's Cobb. He's a thief who takes Bill under his wing and shows him how to break in and enter into people's homes. They enter a woman's flat. Bill gets intrigued with her photographs are everywhere throughout her flat. He follows her and chats with her at a bar owned by her ex-boyfriend. It's a nasty piece of work who killed someone in her living room with a hammer. So soon Bill is volunteering to do her a favor, which involves a break-in. What does the older man know that Bill doesn't? So that's kind of the quick storyline in terms of that. So let me give you a quick synopsis of the movie. So what happens here is, like I said, a struggling, unemployed young writer, credited only as the young man in the film. That's kind of his name, if you will, which was played by Jeremy Theobald. And he takes to following strangers around the streets of London, trying to find inspiration, if you will, for his first novel. Instinctively, he sets strict rules for himself regarding whom he should follow and for how long, but he soon discards them as he focuses on a well-groomed, handsome man in a dark suit. Okay? So like everything else, he has rules that he thinks he's going to follow. It wouldn't be a great movie if you didn't throw all those out. So the man in the suit, having noticed that he's being followed, quickly confronts the young man, introduces himself as Cobb. Cobb reveals that he is a thief and invites a young man who tells Cobb his name is Bill to follow him, go along with him. Oh man, I can't talk today. On a variety of different break-ins. The material gains from these crimes seem to be second nature or second importance to Cobb. He takes pleasure in rifling through personal items of his target flats and drinking their wine. He explains that his true passion is using the stock of robbery and violation of property to make his victims re-examine their lives. He sums up his attitude this way: you take it away and show them what they had. Okay? So basically, he wants to challenge people to make them understand what they have, or to kind of reevaluate, like I said, their lives, and making sure that they understand what they have in terms of that. So the young man is thrilled to have Cobb's lifestyle. He attempts break-in on his own as Cobb encourages and guides him. As Cobb suggests, he alters his appearance, cutting his hair short and wearing a dark suit. He assumes the name Daniel Lloyd based on the credit card Cobb gives him and begins to pursue a relationship with the blonde woman whose flat he and Cobb had broken into. The blonde turns out to be the girlfriend of a small-time gangster, only known as the bald guy in the film, whom she has broken up with him after he murdered a man in her flat. Soon the blonde confides that the bald guy is blackmailing her with indecent photographs, so the young man breaks into the bald guy's safe, but is caught in the act by an unidentified man. He then bungalows a man with a claw hammer and flees with the bald guy's money and the photos. Upon returning to his flat, he finds that the photos are innocent modeling shots, so they're not incriminating at all in terms of that. So you probably know where this is going. Confronting the blonde, the young man learns that she and Cobb have been working together for years on this theft, or these theft methods, I should say it that way. She tells him that Cobb has recently discovered a murdered woman's body during one of his burglars and is attempting to deflect suspicion from himself by making it appear as though there has been multiple thefts going along at the same time. The young man leaves to turn himself into the police, but the blonde reports her success to Cobb, who then reveals that he actually works for the bald guy. The story about the murdered woman was part of a plot to deceive both the blonde and the young man. The blonde has been blackmailing the bald guy with evidence from the murder he committed in her flat, and he wants her murdered in such a way that it cannot be connected to him. Cobb and the blonde murders the blonde to death with a claw hammer that the young man used during the theft of the bald guy's safe, and leaves it at the scene. The police is checking out the young man's story, find that the blonde's murder in the claw hammer with his fingerprints on it. So the young man is thus implemented for the murder of the blonde woman. Cobb, meanwhile, vanishes into thin air or into the crowd. Sorry, trying to read my notes out when I was trying to do a quick summary of this film. So basically what we have here is it's a really interesting concept, but it's a who's got who twisted murder. I wouldn't say conspiracy, but it's just kind of a twisted take on who is trying to deceive and who is trying to rob who in the process. So there were some goofs in the process when, we're talking about continuing scenes. A lot of times, a lot of our fans know this. They'll take a shot and then take a break or cut, and then they'll try to go back and figure that complete shot. So what happens in one shot when Cobb puts the glove into the woman's in the young man's mouth. It is half sticking out, but in the next scene, it is almost completely in the young man's mouth. Another one is at the site of the safe robbery when the young man drops his pants to take the money to his leg. He's wearing striped underwear, which are also seen hanging on a clothesline during the confrontation between the young man and Cobb later in the film. But when he returns to his apartment and removes the money, he is wearing underwear with polka dots. So, probably wasn't all filmed at the same time, right? During the safe robbery, Bill is clearly shown wearing gloves, most noticeably when he pulls the paper with the combination from his pocket. However, as he starts to open the safe, the gloves are gone and they never reappear. Another one is when Bill goes through the blonde's things at his place. The clock he picks from the bag shows 12:44. Moments later, he picks the blonde's photo and sets them against the same clock, which is now showing 12:36. Okay. Another one is during the safe robbery, as the young man is taping money to his torso, his shirt buttons are open. He then lowers his pants and tapes the money to his leg. The policeman enters, and they break into a fight, letting the policeman fall to the floor. The young man hurries his pants up and leaves, even though he hasn't buttoned his shirt. His shirt is buttoned as he heads out of the room containing the safe. So just a few different thoughts when it comes to not having everything matching up completely. Does it make or break the film? No. It's just one of those things that when you're watching the film, it's just kind of neat to have some of the goofs on there. Sometimes some of that will point right out at us. Other times you have to watch the film maybe 2 or 3 times to be able to catch that, and you're looking for that particular type of mistake, if you will, in the film. So what did I think of the film following? I really enjoyed it for a couple reasons. One, I'm a huge black and white fan, so as soon as I saw that it was going to be a black and white film, I love the classics. I love the old black and white film. And so right there, I was leaning towards liking it, even though I hadn't seen the movie yet. The other thing that I really enjoyed about the movie was I liked the concept. And that's one nice thing about doing this podcast. I get to do a little research. And a lot of times when you're watching a film, you just watch a film and that's it. You're doing it for pure entertainment value. Doing this podcast, not only do I get to watch movies, but I also get to do a little research regarding maybe an actor or an actress, or in this case, a director, and how does somebody as the writer or director get their inspiration. And it was really cool to think that, I mean, I hate to say it in these terms, that he actually went through a situation where he was robbed, and that inspired him to kind of write this movie and film it. So that in itself were 2 things that jumped out at me right away in terms of that. But having said all that, even if it had been in color, even if I hadn't have known that, I thought this was really a great film. All right, maybe it's not was a great film, but let me say it was a good film. I like the idea of this being his first film. There was parts of it that I thought were a little choppy, if you will. And then when I realized that this was really his first film, I'm like, wow, it was actually pretty good for somebody's first film. The acting, to be able to think that you spread that out over a year. A lot of times when you're doing a film, as you guys know, maybe you're shooting it in 30 days, 45 days. But to think that you had to stay in character or come back on weekends after a 5-day break for over a year, I thought the characters did a wonderful job having that type of restraint or pressure placed on them that most characters don't have to go through that wait period. So there was a lot of positives in this film. And from what I could tell when I went out and did some research, like I said, listening to what some of the critics had to say, most everybody agreed. Obviously, there's always going to be one or two in the group that didn't like the film for whatever reason. It wasn't realistic, or it wasn't believable, or whatever the case might be. But overall, I have to agree not only with the critics, but also with the fans, that on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being excellent, I'm really going to give this a 7 on this for a lot of reasons. One, it had me because of the black and white. I really love the concept of how the movie came about, but also thinking that what the actors and actresses had to go through and really spread this out over a year to film really was something that was really inspiring. I thought they did a great job. The low budget, everything just kind of spoke to me as you couldn't tell. And that was a sign of a good film. So, like I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being outstanding, I'm going to give this film a 7. Pretty high number in my book, but I thought it was well worth it. It was just really kind of enjoyable film. I'll have to be honest with you. This was not a film that I was aware of. Obviously, there's several films in here. Memento, the Batman series, Insomnia, Dunkirk. There was another one in here that I'm totally forgetting. Inception was another one, but The Prestige with Hugh Jackson and Christian Bale. Great film. So I knew all those films. I'd seen all those films before, but I really didn't know the following. And then putting everything in perspective, that he really got his roots with this movie, The Following, and you could see over time how he was developing his style and his signature within the films. So, like I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give this film a 7. I was really impressed and pleased with it. That I wasn't 100% sure of, honestly, even though I said I liked some things about it before I jumped into it. But you really don't know what you're going to see, how's it going to feel. And overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this film. So we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode of The Complete Works. You can find more of my work on film-book.com. Just search for Doug Hess or The Complete Works. You can also find me on Twitter at HessDoug14. Again, that's HessDoug14. If you listen to this podcast on iTunes or another podcast service, please rate and review this episode. If you're listening to the podcast on our YouTube channel, Film Book Podcast, please like our video, subscription to our channel, and leave us a comment in the comment section. Tune in the next time when I review and analyze the next Christopher Nolan film. I want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.